Hello, this is David Braun from Automated Valuation Technologies, Inc. AVT develops and sells automated tools to neighborhood appraisers like you. I'm very excited to preview our new office management system called Virtual Office Assistant. It is a workflow management system that begins when the appraisal order is taken and ends with the payroll report. It is simple to use and proven. In fact, my appraisal company has been using the Virtual Office Manager for over a decade. There are a couple of good office management systems available to appraisers. Some are very extensive and expensive. However, they're very cost effective for the larger offices. Some appraisers use the office management system that is built into their appraisal software package, and they may be very satisfied with that. However, I still talk with appraisers that use the old black ledger book system with handwritten entries, although most have migrated to at least a data list within an Excel spreadsheet. These are the folks that I'm looking for, as this system will really save them some time. The Virtual Office Assistant is a standalone application that runs in 2007 or later versions of Microsoft Excel. Let's take a look. Now, this is the menu system, and you have some various buttons. Now, let's say your order has come in to the appraisal office. The first thing I would do is I would go to my recall query and see if we've done that before. So you could come up, for example, I would search two ways by address, and maybe I'll put just the street name. Sometimes when you search, the least you put, the better. Now, this came up and it found 4 on Grandview, so I could look that way and see if it was one of mine. Now, I want to know if it's been done before because of the new USPAP requirement to report if you performed any service on a property, and also to know if we've done it in our office. We may want to assign it to the same appraiser who did it before. Now, you could also search by a borrower individual. You could put in, like, if their last name was Smith, you could search and see if any of these are your properties. After I've done that, next I would go to my work in process report, and I'd look and see what all my other appraisers have, so I know who to pass the work out to. And in the work in process, it lists the appraisers. Now, we use just the appraiser's initials, mainly just to save time. These are put in here by the number of orders and by the volume. You can see here these have large amounts of volume at the top and less at the bottom. So you could look and say, well, I probably want to give this order to one of these appraisers at the bottom if it's a quick turnaround time. Now, after I do that, I would go to the order entry. Now, there's a button for that, but I've started one here because I want it to not take so much time on the video, and I've kind of filled one out, and you can tell this is not real. Lender ABC Bank, the officer is Larry Lender, the borrower is Bobby Broke. But anyway, I would go down and fill out my order sheet, and once I get it all entered, then I would send the data to the database. Okay, now it's going to automatically print the sheet out so I can get it to the appraiser who's going to take the order. And I'm going to write down that this is file number 120071. Now, our company uses a larger number. We have about 12 appraisers, and the 12 here is not for the appraisers, that's for the year 2012, and we're on the 71st appraisal here. Okay, so once the order's in, the next thing that would happen is the appraiser would get the order, and they would probably want to go in, so the appraiser would go to a place they can manage their appraiser workbook. And I'm just going to put down an appraiser real quick, collect the data for the appraiser's workbook. And it tells this appraiser that right now, if payroll was run today, you wouldn't have any pay. Net billings that you've done, but the company's not been paid yet, $3,400. You got 4 orders. That's the total fees you have in orders, and it's, the average time is 16 days per order. This is this appraiser has some commercial. Now, what I'm showing you here is the billing system that is set up, that when the office is paid, then the appraiser gets paid. We also have a version that is set up for when the appraisal's complete, the appraiser gets paid. Okay, now the appraiser can go over and look at their data, and these columns are split columns, and like the appraiser might put in 50% split here. Maybe this is the new order, wasn't in this appraiser's name, but the appraiser could enter the split and maybe some other information, maybe the type property, those kinds of things, and they can look, is it an appraisal, and the fees, and they can look at the various things. And when they're done, they can post the change to the recall database, and then the split is entered into the main database. Now, when we go over to the report, we can see that this information can be managed a little bit, like we may just want to only see orders, so we could click and only see orders. We could only see the billed. Okay, these are ones that are billed, done and billed. So the appraiser has a way to get in and manage their workflow, and some that might be on hold, and this appraiser doesn't have any on hold. So we'll go back to build, and if there's not, and the appraiser says, well, I don't remember that, they can hit info and it gives them more information on the property. So this is a good tool for the appraiser to use to keep up with their workflow. All right, then after a while, the appraiser, of course, would complete the report, and they would then go into the edit records, and I'm going to put in the one that we just did, 120071. All right. Okay, and the appraiser would come up and say, well, now it's not in order, I'm done, it's billed, so they could post it as billed. They could also put the property type in, and it gives some choices, and this is a residential, it's just single family home. The report date, we'll just use today's date, and it was completed. Let's say the appraiser was done on 2-1-12. The appraised value is optional, but I could put something in and say 350,000, whatever it might be. And there's no AMCs, it's not closed yet, so these fields don't matter. And so then I could modify, and let's look at one other feature. When everything's done, then you could print out like one hard invoice, one or three copies of the invoice that you might give to an individual, or you could just make a copy and paste into your software, and this is basically what your invoice would look like. We've got our logo in here, but you would put your logo in and then your company information here, and then this is what they would get. So it does the invoicing for you. Now once that's done, and the invoice is done and it's marked there, then eventually, we hope not too long, then the company's going to get paid. Now the administrator would go to do deposits. Now in this case, I'm only going to do 4, so what we're going to have here is a simulation, for example, that you had 4 checks to come in. Hopefully your receipts came back with them with the number on it. So I'm going to put these in. 11-0. Deposits from the checks that came in. This one was $50, this one was $1,500, and this is $600, and hopefully you'd fill the page up with them. So let me check my numbers. 11075, 573. Okay, then I would retrieve some information on these to be sure they're the right ones, so I can look at the borrower, I can look at my lenders, and I can match these amounts, and I go, good, that's the correct deposit. So then I could post this deposit, and I could also print out this sheet to keep in my records. So now it's marked that that deposits have been received for those 4 appraisals. So when it comes time to run the payroll, then the administrator would, or the bookkeeper would click run the payroll here, and this checks for split. Say you didn't want to see any, you didn't think there should be any split over 60% for an individual appraiser, and there should not be a split for 70. This helps the administrator be sure that if 2 people are sharing a split, like they didn't both put 50%, thinking one was going to do 50 and one was going to do a lesser number, and they both put 50 accidentally. So this would show up. All right, so now it gives us the total payroll is $1242.50. We can stop right here if we want to and look at the sheet. Now there's no violations. It would have warned us and said you have some violations of something that the computer noticed that wasn't correct. For example, maybe if one appraiser didn't have a split in, it would have alerted them. There's several violations that could come up, and you would stop now and go to the edit records and correct it right now. Okay, but we like everything we see. So we're going to run the payroll report again, because this is going to make you run it again because it wants to make sure you don't make changes and not rerun it. Now we're going to print out the payroll sheets, run for all, and it says it printed out 3 payroll sheets, so there's 3 appraisers that are going to be paid. Okay, so it's going to print those sheets out, and then we'll hook their check. When we write their check, we'll hook their check to those sheets, and then we'll give them a copy of the sheet. We can look and see what they're going to get. It's going to look something like this, and this is you'll see here it's a $600 fee. The company got paid $600. In this case, this particular person is like is a salaried office worker that gets a bonus. We're really not able to pay our licensed appraisers at this type of a percentage there, which is what 5% or something. So this is just a volume bonus to some of our office support on this one. But then we can, once we look at our sheets and we like what we see, everything's okay, then we can post the payroll to the database. So now the database knows all about it, and we say, okay, how about mark for me all the ones that were billed and everything's done, just mark them closed. Okay, so now that's done. So that's how easy payroll is once you get all the records in. Now let's look at 1 or 2 more things. Let's look at some reporting. We got accounts receivable report that the appraiser can look at or the office can look at. And let's say we want to know about anything that's over 45 days old. We would hit begin and run it, and we would see that there's $31,425 billed out over 45 days old. There's $52,000 that's less than 45 days, and the total is $83,000 out. Okay, and maybe we're saying, well, okay, what about our reports? Well, in the report we list these by appraiser. These are the appraisers over here with the totals. So we list it by appraiser, and we can print that. We can also list it by lender, and that way we can make one call maybe to the bank instead of 5 appraisers calling the banker over and over again. So the late report will show it per appraiser or show it per lender, and maybe 90 days are where we're really concerned, and we really got some bills to pay, and we want to go out. We say, well, there's 14,900 over 90 days, so we would go to our delinquent reports and know to go after which ones to go after and which ones are late. Okay, another report, which is more of a volume, it shows how the office is doing. If you leave all in here, who is this for all? That means the whole office. And what would you like to consider? Residential, commercial, or both? So we'll look at both. We're interested in completion date. And let's go back. See, this is the oldest data we have in here because we only, in this new system, I updated the system, and we brought in 3 years data. So I can put in today's date, and instead of that much data, maybe we just want to go, so we've got all of 10 and basically all of 11. And since we have a couple of years, let's do a monthly look instead of weekly. All right. So now this is going to produce a report for us, and it's by month, and we can insert a trend line if we'd like. We could insert, I like to use the third power polynomial. So you can see that report. Looks like we're going down. You could delete that and enter another line if you'd like to, maybe a linear line. Okay, and then this could be printed out. And it says volume chart for all, considering both residential and commercial. This is based on completion date, and there's your dates. It's a monthly basis, and there's your total and average per period. We could also go to this and run this, for example, for an appraiser. And maybe we'll just want residential. And maybe we just want to go for 1 year for all of 11. So we'll do 1-1-11 to 12-31-11. Okay, and we'll do it on a weekly. So this appraiser could look at their year by completion date, and they can delete that trend line and maybe insert a trend line and look at their report to see how they're doing. So they can run this report for any time period, most any way they would like. So that's the main reports. So this gives you kind of an overview of the system. So I want to thank you for watching the video, and I want to invite you to take a little time to look around the website and be sure and let me know if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.